We're here for your Wednesday podcast, October 29th. It is Jake and Brad. We have a fantastic show today where we start to ask what I think is the right question. Are the Browns tanking? We've talked about at length many things that just are so head scratching, so dumbfounding that you have to ask yourself, are they, these decisions are so crazy. Are they openly tanking and we should be going through the reasons? So we're going to talk about those today. We're also going to have a comprehensive defense breakdown available for you on the end of this podcast if you're a subscriber. So make sure to check that out. And if you're not a subscriber, unlock all of the videos, the full listing, the full rundown, every film room. Posted a film room last night that I think is pretty damning about where this staff is, both offense and defense, week to week, coaching ability, getting their players to understand things, and then maximizing the success you found on offense in a particular scheme. It's well worth your time and pretty damning for the coaching staff. So that will be available for you too if you come by and subscribe. You get your first 7 days free. See what we're all about. I think you'll find Browns Film Breakdown to be a great home for your Browns fandom. A lot of stuff every day. Podcasts, newsletters, film breakdowns. The full defense week 8 review will be up for you on Wednesday as well. We're jam-packed. It's going to be an interesting bye week. Trades are coming in hot and heavy. We have the Steelers making a trade for a safety. We have, I think, again, the New England was so active actually selling. They moved somebody to San Francisco. We'll talk about all of it. It's a jam-packed podcast. Thanks for being here. Let's get started with the latest Browns Film Breakdown, sponsored by FanDuel Sportsbook and Monfredi Dental. Guys, what's up? Welcome into today's show. Hopefully this Wednesday finds you well. It's Jake and Brad. We're here. Brad, what's happening, buddy? What's going on?
Not much. Mid-bye week here, evaluating this organization, doing our own self-scout, you know?
We do.
And there's a lot. There's a lot right now to take in. It's organizationally, the direction in which the Browns are headed. Boy, so many questions. It's a convoluted mess. That's what I'm going to say.
And we have seen some teams get active in the trade market, which we expect the Browns might do at some point here.
Yep.
Andrew Berry has decided not to speak to the media as we know of right now, which is out of the ordinary for how they have gone about the bye week, where Berry usually gets in front of the microphone and has like a,
what does that tell you?
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's not normal. That anything that's not normal definitely makes us raise our senses to all of this. So, yeah, man, it's strange. Like I said, we do expect the Browns to be active this week. There were a couple trades tonight. Kyle Duggar goes from New England over to Pittsburgh. They put Deshaun Elliott, who is one of their starting safeties. He goes to, I think, the IR. He's dealing with a knee. So this trade makes sense. Duggar had fallen out. And this is kind of what happens, right? New regime in New England, Vrabel, new coaching staff. They have some guys in-house who don't buy into the way the new team's operating system looks like, right? They're dealing with some stuff with Christian Barmore over there, who missed the first quarter of the game. Vrabel said it was like an in-house thing, that they are, got to hold their team to a certain standard. And he's trying to get some of the guys who have probably gotten away with some stuff in the year between Bill and obviously you don't want to put it all on the coaching staff, but you just never know. It's the mesh of talent, and that all that stuff can kind of come in that way. But it felt like Duggar was kind of falling out of grace, even though he had a great early career, great start to his New England run. It's also an example of an older prospect who you draft him at 24 and they, have a nice run, but then they're like 28 by the time a new contract's set to be set up. And that's just a little old in the NFL world. So Duggar goes to Pittsburgh. I don't know how that fit's going to be. We'll see. We're just going to have to keep our eyes on it because they're in the division, but it's a swap of like 7th and 6th, nothing serious compensation wise.
Yeah, I always thought he was a pretty good player.
I did too. He gave Njoku hell in 21 and 22, if I recall, covering the tight end stuff. He's a nice player. I think he created a turnover in 22 in Cleveland. I know that, but
yeah, he did.
Let's continue on. They also made New England, who's obviously 5-1 right now, has made another trade, giving up another player, Keon White, who they traded over to San Francisco, a defensive end player that again has fallen out. They brought in Caleb on Chase, on a kid who I think Vrabel had a history with, and they've gotten Landry to be a part. Again, another guy Vrabel's had a history with, and shipped him to San Francisco for nothing again, kind of a late round pick, 6th round pick. So just kind of, this is the Patriots are playing well. It's a quarterback driven thing. Drake May is leading them to some success here, but it is an example of changing regimes. Some of the talent gets flushed out that you took high in drafts, and they don't like that style of player here. So I don't know if Patriots folks are happy about either of those trades, but it's quite clear the organization was like, we don't need you anymore kind of vibe there, especially to move them for next to nothing. I do expect Miami to be involved in some trades. There's a set of guys on the market. The Browns will be one of the teams bringing guys to the market, but the Andrew Berry thing is weird, Brad. There's no way around that. It's a very strange thing to not have him talking this week.
Yeah. You got to figure when he does. I bet you he does speak by the time the Browns play again. That's my guess. They just don't have anything on the books yet. And I think that he will point to the trade deadline as the reason.
It's possible. It's very possible. I think it'd be weird for him to disrupt the normal game week, which is very regimented on who's talking what day. Maybe late this week he talks. I don't know. It's interesting. You obviously can't say that every single piece of the week is decided. He could come out and say he's going to talk, but yeah, I mean, I think it is strange. I think it's strange you can't spend a half hour with the media, even if it is the trade deadline.
Yeah.
So it's not a great look. I'll say that much. Anyway, we have some things to talk about, and really it's just like, it's pure conjecture. This is what we're doing here, because what we think, and this isn't something other people haven't said. There's a lot of people that have called this like a diet tank. I heard that one from our guy, Mike, I think is the one who said that. I like phrasing it as a diet tank, right? It's not quite as packed with sugar as a regular tank, but you get some
Tank Zero.
Love that. That's the angle. But what we're doing this, and like I said, I make that film room yesterday. We're talking through Sunday about like, this is so illogical. They have to be just tanking. They could be really bad. It's very possible, as you said Sunday, Brad, that giving them the benefit of the doubt that they're tanking isn't fair because they're just bad at this. That's possible. Very realistic door A. Door B is like, they're making, and I have said this forever, and I'm sure you share my sentiments. Tanking usually comes from the front office. Decisions made to put lesser talent into specific spots that give you a lower percentage chance to win. And it does feel like that is happening here. I can also understand people who want to believe these guys are so bad they're not tanking. Fair. Not here to tell you you're wrong, but I am here with Brad today to make a list of choices that would tell you these are the most obvious things that tell you they're tanking. You ready to do this list, Brad?
I'm ready.
The first thing we came up with is any urgency after Deshaun Watson tore the Achilles a second time, and a draft in which it was clearly a Cam Ward 1 draft.
Yep.
You were picked 2. There was no urgency to sign a quarterback of relevance. None. They trade for Kenny Pickett.
I was freaking out, Jake. I was freaking out over the summer. People were calling me a whiner on the regular because I was coming on YouTube show and I was going nuts because all they had was Kenny Pickett. And the biggest rumor out there was that Carson Wentz was coming in. And I was freaking out that these are not real answers. You've got to be kidding me. This is not serious. And they're not serious, really.
No, I mean, the one that I think it was viewed as not serious at the time, it worked out. Actually, 2 have kind of done this at the time. And I don't even know if it would have really moved the needle if Daniel Jones or Mac Jones would have moved the needle. I don't know.
I wanted Daniel Jones.
Well, I think that was a very split. People thought he stunk. And I'm in that camp. I had a lot of fantasy opportunities to trade for him. But their desire, and again, hands to the sky here. Maybe Kenny Pickett. Who's to say? If Mac Jones is finding some success and Daniel Jones has found some success again, who's to say for certain? I don't believe that would have happened for Kenny Pickett, but who's to say for certain? But I think that their lack of urgency, their lack of urgency to go out and find a solution. And I even, Brad, would have been okay with the process to think Kirk Cousins could have been a solution. I know it's clear he's not. I know it's clear what he did for Atlanta in a dome it's not the end, but there was no, we got to figure this out. They did bring Russell Wilson in.
Yep.
So that was something. Yeah. They let him come through and leave. They didn't give him a deal he couldn't refuse, but they pretty clearly didn't have a quarterback urgency.
That would have been the move. If they wanted to be competitive this year, Russell Wilson would have been one of your best options, and you would have had to not let him leave the building or offer him a deal better than what the Giants offered him. I mean,
I know. It is.
I don't love Russell Wilson at all.
Right.
Solution, but that's your like proof that you were not just giving up before it started.
Yeah, I definitely think that like there's saying this what we would have thought at the time versus what we've seen this year. It's a little bit of a because everybody should be like, well, why didn't my team go get Daniel Jones? Why didn't my team why didn't they go aggressively after Sam Darnold? Like, I just felt like the Browns weren't really pushing the envelope here.
They weren't.
And they ended up landing on Pickett and Flacco, and you're like, okay, that's what they're going to roll into this year with. That tells us a pretty clear picture. And they draft two where they drafted them. We didn't think they were serious picks at the time, understanding some of which is like take dart throws. But this is where the second part of the breadcrumbs fall for tanking.
Yeah.
They basically they let go of Kenny Pickett, take it for what it is. I talked about the human shield thing here.
Mm-hmm.
He would have been a human shield for whatever this offense was. They said, you can go for a fifth. And by the end of week 3, we had Joe Flacco done. So, excuse me, I think it was actually week 4, the Lions. They said, we're done with him and we're going to trade him by the end of week 5. So, like,
shocking your head coach.
Yeah, pretty clearly came about in a way with haste that shocked everybody involved. And Kevin was left. But if Kevin needed Joe to start, he would have continued to start him, which is our next element of this breadcrumbs for tanking, which is throwing a third-round pick, the 94th selection, into the starting lineup by week 5. A young man, Brad, who clearly isn't ready for this. And that is a huge indicator of like, Joe probably gives us the best route to winning some games. Even though he wasn't playing well, Joe gives us the best route to winning games. Let's throw this young man in and see what happens. Feed him to the wolves, because if he's really good, we look like geniuses. If he's really bad, we lose games, which is not the worst thing for where our tank angle is here. So that is a huge breadcrumb. We can agree on that.
Agreed.
Next, let's finish up the quarterback thing. Let's finish up. Now, granted, we don't know the inner workings of quarterback. I mean, we've been through this. We've yelled at each other over this.
Very much. Even off
we
the
are
air.
recognizing we don't know the quarterback meetings, performance, all the elements behind closed doors at Berea, and especially practice. But if Dylan Gabriel's playing like this and Shedeur Sanders is not a corpse out there at practice, wouldn't there be some push to be like, let's just give the other guy a chance?
Yep.
We are, again, understanding we can't see every part of this whole equation, but I think it's a pretty big indicator that you're kind of fine with whatever Dylan gives you for a little while longer, that you're not like do or die on this, and it's just a fun little experiment the rest of the season. That's the way it feels. We'll throw Dylan back out there after the bye, give him a game or 2, maybe 3, and then Shedeur can have the last 5 or 6. Like, that's the vibe I get, and that doesn't present to me a sense of urgency, because Dylan is doing nothing that tells me he deserves to continue to start. Unless, again, Shedeur is going out there, sawing off his left arm at practice, and sewing it back on at the end and just
can't
dying on
chew
the field
gum
every
and walk
day,
at the same time or whatever.
which would be something. I am
crazy.
flabbergasted by all of it. So that's our quarterback breadcrumbs as we see them. The draft is another big one. First of all, what to me makes the trade down fine, can understand it. I think if you were trying to win right now, the best possible route, again, at the time, I can't speak for how Jacksonville is using a player, would have been to go with the unicornish talent that was perceived to be Travis Hunter. What he's doing now, I don't care. I'm talking about at the time, would have been to take him, get a premier wide receiver, a potentially premier corner in your room, and go figure it out. That would have been the win now. We're going after it this year. Not even like so much as we're not trying to not win ball games now, like, or even going back as they did, that's fine, and taking some sort of premier offense position. Whereas what felt like Mason Graham was like hey, we had our quarterback get hurt for a year and we've had a bad D line. Let's just move back and then go get a premier defensive lineman to bolster us there. And then when we get X quarterback back, we're ready to go next year. You know what I'm saying? It felt like a luxury pick when you had this giant hole at tackle.
No luxury.
Yeah, and this giant hole at wide receiver, and there's guys like Tet McMillan there. There was a guy named Armand Membow waiting there, and they went defense. I just don't know how you think that makes the most logical sense. This is not to speak on Mason Graham. This is just to speak on the thought process.
It's an indicator of their intentions that they didn't feel like filling those holes that clearly needed filled on the offensive side of the ball. If you wanted to even try to compete, they felt no pressure to do so.
I would also say inside that draft, I understand the Browns don't had to restructure their running back room in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But taking two running backs, I'm not calling it a direct tanking thinking, but like that choice shows me there's no pressure on your year. Taking two running backs to me in a single draft, nobody had done. I've done the history on this. It hasn't been done. No team has done that in a significant. There's a team that would spend like a second or a first and a seventh, but the picks as close together as they did when they clearly still had plans for Jerome Ford, who's playing a ton.
Yeah.
Playing a ton. That to me is another indicator because, Brad, if you look at the 2025 NFL draft and look at wide receivers selected after Dylan Gabriel, I want you to do this. Do me a favor. Pull up the Brown stats in front of you right now because I think Jerry Jeudy has like 260 yards receiving on the year. Okay.
Okay.
Guys who were selected after the 94th pick. Right? Now, one's a tight end, so not going to get bent out of shape, but Aronde Gadsden has 385 yards.
Yep.
Okay? Having a nice run. But selected after Elick Ayamanar, the Tennessee kid who's from Stanford, pick 136, has 277 yards and 2 touchdowns. Would lead the Browns right now.
More than Jeudy.
I think the second most receiving yards on a player on the roster is like 116 Bond, maybe. Tell me if I'm wrong.
At the receiver position?
Yes.
Yeah, because they're tight ends, and even Dylan Sampson has more receiving yards than Bond. Bond has 123.
That's the second leading wide receiver.
Yep.
Tez Johnson picked 235 in the 7th round, 213. Chimere Dike picked 103, 189. Pick 128, Jalen Lane, 142, who went to Washington.
Yep.
I mean, the list kind of goes on. There are Torrey Horton is right there with 3 touchdowns. So I'm just saying, I guess put it this way, ignoring premium offense positions the way they did, completely ignoring them is a tank indicator, in my opinion. Not feeling the pressure of our wide receiver room isn't good enough. Our offensive line isn't good enough. We'll run it back. And you couldn't have guaranteed yourself Isaiah Bond was even going to work out at the time. This guy was going to prison at the time, everyone thought. So don't miss me with that. So, yeah, man, like you're going to lie to me and tell me there wasn't help in the draft? Like come on.
So here's my question, though. I mean, and I guess this really isn't even a tanking question, but does it really matter? Like, if you don't address the quarterback, does it matter if you take a wide receiver? Because none of the receivers that are out there now matter because they're not even throwing the ball to them.
Well, I mean, you can't do it. Like, you can't wait. My theory is like, you can't wait on one thing to get other things.
Sure.
That's just, or you'll never get it. You could never get it. So like, I think you just, you pay attention to the premium positions all the time as best you possibly can within reason. And like, they just ignored all of them on offense. They didn't move up. Like, you knew the teams in front of you there with the pick that you took, I think Schlesinger. And I love Carson. It's going to be a great player, but you needed a tackle, and you knew it. Like, you might have to get back into the first round to get a tackle, and you had ammunition to do that.
You did.
To get in front of Kansas City, who needed a tackle. To get in front of, there was another team there in the back half who needed a tackle. But like, they ignored all of them. I think that's a huge indicator. Another one that and that's the draft. Do you have anything else on the draft? I think that like that probably is it, but you might have another piece on that.
No, I just thought, the ignoring wide receiver throughout the entire draft and going as low cost as you possibly can, rolling your dice on a guy who's being prosecuted. I mean, I feel like they did more work on him and paying attention to what Bond was doing and the whole thing. They had somebody on the inside that told him that listen, he's innocent. He's going to get off of this thing. They were watching the thing. I mean, they had to have been from day one, because the second that he was freed, or it was considered, done, he wasn't going to be charged, there was a letter out thanking the Haslams. So they were in on this guy early, all the way through. And that just seems like the cheapest possible, no asset way to address the position, which to me screams no priority and tank. And then also the kicking the pick into next year, the no quarterback, real option, just screams 2 picks next year, address quarterback. We're going to be bad this year.
The draft was a massive indicator. All right. We have no replacement. There's just other things I've thought of. And I would love for you guys in the comments of either this article version of the podcast on Substack, or if you're listening to this on YouTube or wherever, let us know other things you think here. Or if you think we're wrong, you're never afraid to do that. Is Haslam's, no, I got one more before that.
Yeah.
No replacement of the slot corner position. They ran into the year after the injury to Martin Emerson, and I wrote about it at the time.
That was
there was no pressure. And listen, Miles Harden's been fine. He's turned out to be okay for them this year. We certainly didn't know that at the time. And guess what, guys? The Browns didn't even think that was going to be the case, because they were starting somebody else who's since been cut, Cam Mitchell. So you can miss me with they knew they were going to be fine. No, they didn't even know who to start. Brother, they know who to start. They weren't signing. There were options on the market to sign and want to do it. That's an indicator, man, that you don't mind leaving a hole in your defense.
There were plenty of guys on the market or guys on other rosters that could have been explored to fill this position. They didn't do it. They didn't care.
Yeah.
They left a hole in the defense, and they luckily have gotten a pretty decent performance from Harden so far.
Agreed. The last one is the Haslam comments. I mean, how can you be performing the way you're performing without any with any bolster of like, he doesn't have to say a word there. Hey guys,
nothing.
I'll answer some questions on the stadium. I'm not really going to go into the coaching thing right now. Please, don't write any of that. I'm just like, he could have done that in a way that doesn't leave him out there being super positive and supportive. Now you can say, hey man, he probably would have fired them after the game if they lost or whatever. And he was just doing that as a reactionary thing. I mean, you don't put anything past Jimmy Haslam, but I don't know, Brad. I feel like that is a pretty big indicator of like, until we see otherwise. Now, the Browns have been known to say something and mean something different and not give their true intentions away. But I don't know if Haslam is that way. So, yeah, man, I don't. It's an indicator of like, we're fine with the result no matter what this year until it's not. Maybe it continues to be so bad. They lose to the. I think if they lose, okay, if you feel that way and they lose to the Jets and the Titans, especially the Titans at home, they lose those games, that's where you got to be like. And I understand it might be the right thing for them to lose those games, but boy, would you be like, what? Okay, you know, I don't know, dude. That's where I'm like, we'll see when the pressure gets really cranked up, because there are games on the back half here that they should have a real chance to win, could very well lose them, but have a chance to win. But like, we'll see when it turns up. But for now, it's like very cavalier about it. Tough situation. The trade stunk. It's murdering us. We'll figure it out. That's the vibe I get from Haslam.
He's done a great job dealing with what was a terrible trade. He mentions the Watson trade. And then, boy, you learn about a lot about coaches when things are going bad. What are we talking about, Jake? Things have been going bad. You're 6-20. You're 5-20 in the last 2 years. Things have been going bad straight through, man. What are we talking about? We're talking about a win over the Dolphins at home.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes him some kind of a resilient, like, leader.
That's why all of these things that we have talked about in our open today, as we sat there befuddled, dreary, annoyed on Sunday, to the point that we're yelling at each other about like, these decisions make such little sense. They just have to be tanking. And I think the sooner you come to the realization that that's what they're doing, one of two things. And I think you're fine either way here. They're either too dumb to figure this out, they're bad at their jobs, or they're tanking. That's it. That's the only two places you can arrive on this. Now, the problem is the fearful nature of if they're too dumb to do this, they can't figure it out, they're bad, is the prospect of running it out there again in 2026. But I digress a little bit there.
So here's my question, though. Ultimately, we have all these indicators.
Yes.
Most of which come from the front office.
Most, yes.
Pretty much all of them pretty much come from the front office.
Are you going to say like, hey man, when Kevin Stefanski calls a really good play, he's like, oh shit, oh, let's not do that one again. We can't score two.
That's my question though. Like, this year has been an indictment on him as a coach.
Right.
Are you telling me he's
48 dropbacks, 50 dropbacks? I think the decisions have been so dumb. The decision in Pittsburgh, the way to play Dylan, the decision where I'm showing you, hey, this play's gone for 13 yards and 31 yards, and you won't even use it a second time in a game or build any play action elements off of it. It makes me wonder, like, again, two things. You're either really, really, really bad at this, or you're told from maybe some analytics meetings or something, hey, we got to go about it this way. And I know, Brad, it sounds so stupid to say out loud.
That's where I can't. That's where this thing loses me. Tank from the front office, but never should the coach be calling plays to lose game. He should always be trying to win the game, but just can't because the front office has not given him the proper tools to do so. That's how you tank.
It's also you lose your players. You lose their belief in you. You lose all of it. You can't come back the next year after calling, if this is what it's true, that you're calling plays to lose, right? Not giving your team the best chance to win. They know that. The guys know that.
Kevin would do that.
I don't either. But if we're going to say that's somewhat not happening, then he's really bad at this.
Then he's bad.
Which is obviously
where I'm at.
Which is obviously the biggest struggle with being like, great leader, we'll figure it out when we get out from underneath this trade. That's what Jimmy said. So again, pick your poison on this, man. Neither of these realities are very fun. They're not fun because we can all think the Browns need the best possible pick to get better, to improve the talent. But also, I can't watch them structure this offense this way much longer. I can't watch it. I think they're doing a disservice to play. Because, like, are you going to sit here and realistically tell me that, like, I understand Jerry Jeudy has not been very good this year, but he's a worse player than what was the name of the young man who I said had more receiving yards this year?
Maynor.
Yeah, like, you're going to really tell me you can't get more production out of Jerry? You can't scheme ways for him to get touches? You got to be kidding me. And you can't get diverse in the run game to get Judkins on the perimeter a little bit. You can run a jet sweep where you run counter influence, but you can't run that and toss it. Instead of giving it to Malachi Corley, you can't flip it out the backside to your running back, who's the best athlete you have on the field on offense. Like, come on, dog. Like, what are we doing? So you're either really, really, really bad at this or something's going on. Because you remember there's always like, hey, man, DePodesta's involved in there's an analytic meeting for play calling that happens every week. Like, those have been out there for a long time. And I'm not saying there's mandates on this thing, but what I'm saying is, are the influences? Because again, go back and look at why Kevin was asked to change the staff around him on the offense in 2024. It was owner Jimmy Haslam and chief strategy officer Paul DePodesta didn't like the progress that was being made with Deshaun Watson.
Sure.
He's involved. They're involved in this. Very involved. So I'm not trying to relieve Kevin of any bad doing here. I think he's been brutal.
With all of this considered, flash shot to that video after the Packers game of Jimmy and of Barry and Kevin in the tunnel, rejoicing, hugging each other, almost overjoyed to the point where they look like little kids with that win.
Yeah.
Long pause. Listen, I just think,
Brad, I don't know, man. This is what they're forcing us to do. They're doing so many things poorly. They're forcing us to have these, like, why does this mean this? Why does A plus B equal F? Like, what are we missing here? Let me just say this. Something doesn't smell right. That's
100%.
it. Between
100%.
whatever there's a lot of conspiracies you can come up with about what's going on with the Browns right now. Something smells very strange. So whatever that is, I don't know.
Which you can't sell me. You can sell me that the front office is tanking. You can tell me that DePodesta is selling. What you can't tell me is that Kevin is purposely not calling the best possible plays to win games.
In his mind. Because I can tell you he's not calling the best possible plays to win games.
No, he's not. But I'm saying that's due to ineptitude, not decision making. Like, he's not gonna like come in next year and be like, guess what, guys? I saved all the good plays for 2026.
Well, he wouldn't say that. He would just coach them differently. That's the idea here. I don't know. I'm just saying, man, something smells weird. And I'm saying but I think with Kevin, he's done that to Baker too. He's dropped him back a ton. He's put him on murderer's row. I'm really more than half joking about the Kevin thing, but it's so bad that you have to ask yourself, like, what is happening here? But if you go look at the trends of the Browns offense from 2020, that first season, and, a healthy Odell, all those guys that were the best talent he had was healthy, and Nick was at the peak of his powers. The O-line was young and fresh, and, they got to 11th in EPA per play, and then it's just been downhill ever since. So, you can say, hey, man, look what he had when they had enough talent. Yeah, that's part of it. I think definitely that's certainly part of it. every play caller is going to be better the better the talent. That's a direct correlation. But I'm talking about the ability to take things when they're not perfect. That's what you're seeing the guys do who are really good at this, is taking a Mac Jones start, taking these guys, and I'm not talking about put up 120 yards and sneak out a win, because they're slinging that thing. They're getting it done on offense. He can't uplift guys.
They're building something in their sequence, like to your point today, like, and it felt like he did that for a while. Like there were things that we would look at in the film in like 2020 and be like, oh wow, he identified this in the game, and they're building off of this, and the run and the pass look the same, so they're able to create some of this confusion for defenses, and they're building an offense that's successful. But that is completely gone by the wayside. I see there's none of that to be found, to the point of what you did yesterday, where like there's 2 plays that of your most explosive plays on the season that you haven't revisited once.
They never did another fullback insert with Fannin in the game. Ran a touchdown ball to him. No, we'll try that one again in some different version. No, we're good. No. Just going to go away from that. We'll see about it another time. So
let's see what else we can do off of this play that just got us a touchdown.
It's mystifying, man, and I'm tired of watching it. That's what I know. And the prospect of having to watch it again when I can tell where it's heading is like a repeat of the, 2018. You got excited because they had this young quarterback they took first, but you knew where it was going with Hugh Jackson. You just knew it. I don't feel any different about that right now in terms of like, if Kevin retains the position and keeps keeps the job. I don't know, man. I don't know. Don't feel great. We wanted to lay this out. Hopefully we did. Again, tell us where we're right. Tell us where we're wrong. Open to the banter. We are going to wrap up there, take a break, come back and do comprehensive defense breakdown for you. So stick around for that if you're a subscriber. If not, this is the end of your podcast, and we very much appreciate your time. And as we always say, go Browns. All right, let's get into the comprehensive breakdown from this one, where as far as game grades go, this was the worst defense game grade by a wide margin. They had a couple games in the mid-60s, Steelers and Vikings, but this one's down at 55.5 for the whole defense. And the coverage stuff is what is graded the worst by a wide margin. They hadn't had a game below 57. That was Minnesota in collective coverage grade. And this one was a 37.8 coverage grade. In particular, the Browns played a lot of man, way more man this week, 34 snaps of the defense's entirety, which was like, I think 78% of this game. And I know that's the highest number for the week, and I'm kind of double checking that according to True Media. So excuse me, it was initially it looked that way, but 52.3% man, which is the 5% higher than any other team for the week. 34 snaps of 65 total snaps in man. And the 43% zone rate is the lowest in the NFL this week. So obviously one correlates with the other, but just a entirely different game plan than the week before. And I wouldn't say that the man coverage was awful. I think it held to 7 of 12. Now 2 touchdowns did come against man coverage. To the 1 interception was created via man coverage. So, there's give and take there. I wouldn't say it killed him, but what stood out in particular is when the Browns got out of nickel, when they were in their nickel stuff, 5 DBs or more on the field and into their dime, they gave up some chunk plays. They gave up the throw to, and I think that throw, there was a push off on Delpit for 44 yards, but they held themselves respectable for the most part in the higher DB volume plays. The problem was the chunk plays they gave up with base linebackers on the field. They gave up plays of 11, 19, 13, 39, 28, 27, and another one for 9, 21, 31, 15, 18, 12. Those are all with 3 linebackers on the field. So whatever manipulation they got the Browns into, and when they play, if you just kind of want to track coverages when the Browns get into their three linebacker looks. Like, what are they playing mostly? You would look at it and say, what are they? 25 snaps. That's one of the higher volumes of three linebackers on the field. They're pretty split. 13 plays in man, 12 plays in zone. So it's not that it's anything that pops out. It's just they picked on the looks. They picked on putting the Browns inside of looks that they thought would give them man coverage and didn't provide it. Cover 2 continues to be a big problem for the Browns. They gave up 4 of 4 for 78 yards in cover 2. And it was just a really good game plan from the Patriots overall in this one. Putting the Browns in a bunch of conflict laterally, vertically, and it paid off for them throughout the game, and especially the run game, which rendered the results on just plays that are lateral runs that they're trying to put the football on the perimeter. They really exposed the Browns. So the outside zone stuff specifically, and I'm just kind of going by their labeling. 10 runs in this one, pin pull, toss concepts, toss lead, 10 carries for 81 yards. The Browns got none of those in this game. They don't put the ball on the perimeter. So 10 carries, 81 yards, 8.1 yards per rush. If you add in what I think the concept that gave them the most success between the tackles, just trapping, inside the tackle box, then it goes to 13 for 98 in the game. Travion Henderson, 7 for 74. 7.5 yards per rush in this one. So you can do the math. When they put the ball in the perimeter, they found a ton of success, right? Inside zone, power, counter, not much. 8 carries, 15 yards, 1.9. You want to run the football on the Browns defense, put it on the perimeter. Put it on the perimeter. That's where you're going to find a bunch of success against the Browns defense. And it's a problem. And until they can rectify it by having their defensive ends play those differently, it's going to continue to be where their run game gets gashed. So not the same game plan as last week. A quarterback whose scrambling ability was a problem for them to defend, and they didn't cover well. It's really as simple as that. Myles Garrett, phenomenal game. As far as his collective game grade is a 91.5, 91.8 rush, 7 pressures, 5 sacks. He was himself. He dealt with 2 bodies in his direction quite often. The Browns did do some taking their edge players, usually Miles and Alex Wright, putting them inside a D tackle, and then putting Mason Graham and Malik Collins outside. I saw that. That is new. That's something they're doing. So trying to get different rush points, these guys, is important for them. But outside of Miles, Malik Collins got 2 pressures. Mason Graham got 1. There's a slew of guys with 1. Swessinger, Diabate, Alex Wright got 1, and it ended up being a sack. Tyson Campbell got 1 on a blitz. Cameron Thomas, Grant Delpit. So, yeah, just not a ton of organic pressure that needed to be had, right? You would have liked to have seen more. 17 for the game, whereas on the New England side, if you add up all the pressures across everybody. Now, this could be on one play, right? You could get 2 or 3 guys could have a pressure on a single play, but they had 33. So there's a stark difference in the issues these quarterbacks are dealing with. As far as what they did to Drake May, when he was kept clean, he was 14 of 18, 3 touchdowns and interception. When they got him under pressure, only 14 dropbacks, and they got 6 sacks. When they got pressure to him, he struggled. 4 of 6, 45 yards. That's it. 6 sacks. It's great. It's a pretty bad grade. 49.2 grade, 45.1 pass grade when he was under pressure. When he wasn't blitzed, 12 of 17, 228, 2 touchdowns a pick. But that's, again, not talking about pressure, just not blitzed. When he was blitzed, he was 6 of 7, 54 yards and a touchdown, and sacked 1 time. Just high variance there. Some sacks, but some huge plays that he created. Huge plays. On play action, he was 6 of 7 for 88 yards and a touchdown, so that rendered really effective for them. They didn't even throw a single screen in the game, so didn't even use that, but 4 of 5 on deep throws. 20 plus yards downfield, 4 of 5, 135 and a touchdown. So that's pretty damn good. An element that the Browns offense does not have. As far as, like I said, let's hit on coverage. It was just one of Denzel's worst games this year. He gets a bad grade, 44.6. He gave up 5. I mean, these are going to Mac Hollins. He's getting beat on comebacks and crossers. Gets beat on a cover 2 where he doesn't drop underneath a corner route on the only route releasing to his side. Not a good game from him. Really not a good game. Schwarzenegger's the only one that gets a high volume snap, decent grade, 72.1. Only allowed 1 catch for 19 yards. Obviously had the really nice interception. Hickman was respectable. He only gave up 1 catch for 7. I thought Tyson Campbell's grade should be worse and not reflective of how coverage grades should work. He actually got beat deep on several occasions where the pressure saved him. He only gave up 3 of 4 for 34 yards. But if you're looking like, hey man, why do you not like PFF's coverage grades very much? Go watch this whole game and check back this grade and see where what one person does on the field is relying on other people. This is the one. It's a great example. I'll probably reference it a lot. Dom Jones gives up 3 catches for 48 and a touchdown. I think there's something there with him, 2 touchdowns actually, but he is getting beat early in his career. Harden is on the field for 21 snaps in the slot. He gives up 1 catch for 6 yards, but he did have a penalty in this one, a DPI. So that hinders the grade kind of significantly. You know what I mean? So that gives first downs and whatnot. So that is why his grade, even though there's not much production there, is something that costs him significantly when you have those penalties. And then Delpit, man, I thought he got pushed off on one of them, so I'll grant him a break on the 44 yards. That's just a bad no call. It's like right in front of the back judge. I don't know how he misses it. 97 yards on the day, allowing 4 of 4 in his direction, including a touchdown. The touchdown was on him. He got eye manipulated like crazy. The touchdown to Hunter Henry, that was bad. The slant that was labeled to him, I don't know that it belonged to him. I think it actually belonged to Devin Bush because it looks like the coverage is blown. They got Devin Bush doing one thing while everybody else is doing something different. Yet again, PFF is grading it as like, okay, the guy doing the thing different than everybody else is the guy we will let off the hook here and give it to Delpit. This is, again, coverage grades over there are not good, in my opinion. Pass rush, we talked through that already. Miles, 92 overall grade on true pass sets. They need better results from Mason in pass rush and more consistency out of the edges opposite of Miles. It's not generating as much as I'd like to see. Run defense grades were, Jerome Baker struggled. The linebackers at the second level, Schlesinger was fine, but they've got to be better. And I'm worried about them being without him. But Isaiah McGuire had a rough one in this one in 9 run defense snaps. Malik Collins got beat up a little bit on the interior. I thought Mason and Michael, really, they manipulated the Browns D tackles a lot of the day, and I thought they won inside. Thought they won inside to run those traps and obviously put the ball out on the perimeter. I thought Alex Wright played fairly well. Did give up a couple ones where I'd like him to be a bit more aware. But when he was setting an edge, when he was getting in the backfield, 3 stop tackles, you always like to see that. He had 3, Diabate had 3, Hickman had 3, Devin Bush had 2, and Shelby Harris had 2. I thought Harris had a pretty nice game. But Josh McDaniels has a really good feel for Schwartz's thought process and how to attack that defense. And I don't know how teams don't just do exactly like the Patriots took some things from the Steelers. They took some things from the Vikings and a couple little things from Miami and just applied it to their game. And I don't know how teams don't just keep doing that the rest of the way, because this is so obvious to beat this defense. It's obvious. You're going to give up some negatives because of the way they teach their defensive linemen to get vertical, right? The Browns don't teach their D-line to get hands-on. They teach them to get through bodies, to get through gaps. And all you got to do is invite them upfield, and you can take advantage of that thought process. And the coverage has got to be better. It's just got to be better across the board. It's a rough game before the bye, but that's it. That's the notes I have. That's the data I have. That's the player performance notes I have. We will do some more check-ins through the bye. There'll be a film room up here today on that whole defense performance if you want to see exactly what I'm talking about, because there are a ton of examples. Check it out. And you can also check out how the Patriots manipulated the Browns using jet and inserts and a whole bunch of stuff. I put the film room out that kind of ties back into the Browns offense too, ironically. That's available for you as well. So don't forget to check that one out. We're going to live through it together. We'll make it. Guys, thanks for being here. And those of you who support and subscribe, you know that means the world to me. You guys be well. Have a great Wednesday. Go Browns.